Welcome back to the Chess Brewer. Let's crack open another one. Steinitz comes into game two riding high, up 1-0 after a convincing opening win. And today he's got the white pieces to go along with that advantage. But championships have a way of swinging fast, and Zuckertort knows this is a must-respond moment. So while the match is already heating up, let's belly up to the board and see what fermented in game two. All right, game two, Wilhem Steinitz now has the white pieces up 1-0. And Steinitz starts with e4, and we get a Scotch gambit. Steinitz recaptures, Zuckertort knight. We get all four knights out, and immediately Zuckertort pins the knight. Steinitz recaptures on c6. So the very early on out of here is we have doubled pawns on the c-file for black. We have bishop d3, preparing to castle, maybe. These guys don't seem to like to castle. And a strike in the center from Zuckertort with d5. And Steinitz recaptures, and Zuckertort has now kind of straightened out his situation with the doubled pawns on the c-file, and also has staked his claim in the center as well. So not too bad. We actually get castles, so these guys do castle. Bishop g5 from Steinitz, hitting the knight. This comes with a nice little tactic as well. If it were Steinitz's move again, and he was able to just take this knight, obviously black doesn't want to recapture with the pawn and weaken the kingside pawn structure. So if he were to avoid that and recapture with the queen, Steinitz now wins this pawn in the center and would have a hit on the queen and the bishop here. So Zuckertort very calmly, very smoothly, just plays c6 and shores up this pawn. Now he's able to recapture with the queen should Steinitz ever take, and no loss of control of the center. Steinitz rerouting his knight, also getting it out of the way of that bishop pin because he didn't want to end up with his own set of double pawns. And Zuckertort repositions the bishop, and here we see a very similar theme to what we had in game one, where you could say that Zuckertort is doing very well, having this bishop on this diagonal and this bishop on this diagonal. Even though the bishop on c8 hasn't left its home square, it's doing quite a job there, I believe. And you can tell that the early stages of an attack are kind of shaping for Zuckertort here on the king side. So Steinitz plays knight g3. And then Zuckertort will hit him with h6, just kind of asking the bishop what's going on there. And Steinitz brings it back. So I think in this position, the engine favors black a little bit here, not by much, however, I think even, I would rather be black once again in game two here. I think Zuckertort's position is much more clear, what his ideas are, what his advantages are. I mean, bishop pair is doing well. The knight is already out on the king side. The queen is, a move away from stepping into the game. We have a very similar theme going on from game one, in my opinion. And so Zuckertort just drops the knight into g4, obviously protected by this bishop. And yeah, here it comes. Steinitz plays bishop e2, now threatening to win material here on g4. And Zuckertort just gets the queen into the game, gets the queen into the attack, protects the knight, and creates a mate threat. So, I mean, I feel like when four things like that happen on one move, it's got to be a decent move, right? And here Steinitz really has no choice but to chop this knight off and lose the bishop pair. If you look at it and you say, well, can't we play h3 to stop the mate threat and kick the knight? Then the knight can just take on f2, and after rook takes, queen retakes on g3, and we've got some serious threats happening here, right? So this can't be done. So because of that, Steinitz will lose the bishop pair, take the knight. Zuckertort recaptures with a tempo on the queen. The queen has to step aside, and now, yeah, Steinitz's queen is kind of out of the game, right? This rook here is out of the game, and Zuckertort is looking good, and Steinitz is on the defensive and has to figure something out. And that leads us to today's spicy move of the game, brought to you by Ouroboros Hot Sauce. Go visit ouroboroshotsauce.com, use code TheChessBrewer for 15% off your first order. And here's today's spicy move. We get bishop e2. This can't be taken, because if the knight takes, we've got a mate threat here. So just a clean tempo on the rook here, and Steinitz slides the rook over, and Zuckertort drops the bishop back. So bishop pair showing some legs here. Bishop c3 from Steinitz. Just, I think, okay, show the bishop's on the long diagonal, but I think more importantly, the queen has, this diagonal now to get itself back into the game. f5 from Zuckertort. Yeah, the engine doesn't love f5, but I think if you're sitting at a board and two human beings are playing chess, this move, I think it looks pretty appealing. Zuckertort seems to have a little bit of an advantage, and he's got an attack going, so he's bringing the pawn. Rook e6, the best move in the position by far. Infiltrating the enemy territory with the rook and also creating a threat on the bishop on d6. Zuckertort supports, and Steinitz slides the queen into the game here finally. And then Zuckertort just, I love this positional play. You're just pushing this pawn with a threat. Computer doesn't like it. And Steinitz actually finds the best move in the position, and after this move, he's got a little bit of an advantage now on the eval bar. I still would look at this, and I don't know, I think I still personally like black here. So he's hitting the rook, right, on d8, so Zuckertort steps out of it. And Steinitz plays rook takes, and it looks like, what is he doing? This is exchange sack. No, it is not, because after the recapture, Steinitz now has this nice x-ray on both rooks, so he's going to levy up material here momentarily. Zuckertort comes back with the queen, and I like this. I like this from Steinitz. The engine doesn't, so this is why I'm an amateur chess player. We'll look in the game review at, better possible moves, but to my eyes, doubling up on the d file here, hitting this pawn with some pressure, you've already got this threat going out on the rooks, so, if Steinitz could play again, and he takes, and the queen takes, he's going to win this central pawn, But Zuckertort very wisely moves that rook up, and Steinitz takes the rook on f8, recaptures with the queen, does Zuckertort, and it's Steinitz to go here. And what do you do here? He plays knight h5, and I don't understand the move, and maybe we'll be able to check it out in the game viewer. And Billy, what are you doing back there, buddy? Billy's checking out game 2 here with us. All right, I love this move. Queen e8, taking control of the file, the open file here, also hitting the knight, moves that do multiple things. I'm a fan. Steinitz drops the knight back, hitting the rook on d5. So the rook swings over and doubles up here on the e file. Not that there's any immediate threats, but bishop here also controls a square on this file that this queen and rook are currently dominating. h4 from Steinitz. I assume this is to stop g5. And then just a beautiful positional play, just super quiet. Zuckertort plays c5. He shores up any sort of weakness that he had on this pawn, and suddenly these pawns are gaining some traction, and they're looking, they're looking a little scary. It's not a pass pawn yet by any means, but those things are marching down the board and protected. Steinitz playing h5 here. And then we get rook e4. And right away in this position, the engine is screaming at Steinitz to play f3 to kick this knight out, or kick this rook out of this position. And he will eventually get to it, but at a strange time. He plays c3. Again, I don't understand this move. I guess just putting some pressure on those scary pawns that are coming up the board doesn't seem to really have much of an effect. Zuckertort swings the queen over, putting some more pressure on the knight here. And this is a move here that I didn't love when I first saw it. G3, it's just so committal here. So sure, he's backing up the knight, keeping this knight here. Obviously, G4 can never happen because we've got en passant here. However, Zuckertort has this light squared bishop, and Steinitz has no equal. He can't challenge that piece. So that's a really nice piece for Zuckertort. And all it takes is a drop back here, and G3 just opens up all of these light squares around the king. Yeah, seems dicey. Zuckertort centralizes the queen, doubles up on the e-file. And Steinitz drops this knight in, hitting the queen. There's another move in there that we'll take a look at in the game reviewer. I can't remember the exact sequence, but there's a lot of commentary on this game on several places of the internet, and there's talk about how this next move from Steinitz here was that he was trying to reset the position to play the move that he was supposed to play. He didn't realize it until after he had played knight g6. So, yeah, because it's odd to see the knight just hop back and forth there, right? D3 push from Zuckertort. Now this pawn is serious. I do wonder, and we'll take a look when we get into the analysis in the game reviewer, but I do wonder about what happens with this exchange. Because at first glance, it looks like it might be Steinitz's best chance. Because I think it looks like he ends up a pawn up and a rook ending. And I don't know. I would take that. Okay, B3. And Zuckertort, again, just backs up this pawn. And Steinitz's position is getting cramped, to say the least. And rook b1, I don't know. I guess the idea was, well, I guess there's two ideas here, right? If he ever takes this, then this file is open for the rook. If Zuckertort, for some reason, were to take and lose his defense of this pawn, I guess he could take back with the a pawn and have support. Yeah, I don't know what exactly the idea is there, to be honest. And the engine did not care for that move at all. Lost a full point of advantage. King h7, just getting the king off that back rank. So now there is no back rank check ever, and it's, fairly sturdy there, fairly safe. Steinitz doing the same, getting rid of any back rank stuff here. And Zuckertort swings the queen around, and while he cannot do it right now, he is eyeing f2, which is very weak. And that could be for that reason that Steinitz went back to g2. I would say, or g1, I would say g2 is out of the question because of, things like this happening, and then it's just another king move. So, and there it is. There's bishop b7, which the engine didn't like. Not that Zuckertort doesn't have a large advantage here, but you can see the eval bar. Like, I mean, he's crushing after king g1, and bishop b7 just gives, appears to give Steinitz a fighting chance here. But to the naked eye, sitting at the board, I would look at bishop b7 as well, for sure. Rook b1, I don't know what's going on here. I can't wait to dig into it, though. I don't know why you would give up a back rank defender, because now you're subject to any sort of tactical play. I'm not sure what was going on there. I like this from Zuckertort. There was better here, I guess, but I mean, come on. Now you've got threats of a tactic here, right? If rook e1 check, queen takes, now the queen comes down here, and it's game over, right? So you've got a legitimate mate threat again. F3 finally played from Steinitz, kicking the rook, and it's just too little too late. Everything has just been weakened so much. Queen drops a check. Queen comes over to cover, and there we see the result of not having that back rank covered with the rook on b1. So obviously the queen can't take because the queen is covering the check from the queen on c5. So we're going to get king h2. Why he didn't play king g2, I don't know. But as a result, they trade the queens. And then Zuckertort this is fantastic, just takes on f3. And this rook, if the rook takes here, this is just pawn d2, and it's promoting. There's no way to stop it. He's not going to get there. So Steinitz presses on. Zuckertort shores up this spot. Knight hits the rook, and he just says, I don't care. Zuckertort just pushes the pawn. This pawn is going to promote if you don't move the knight to a square to stop it. So Steinitz moves the knight. And here Zuckertort takes, Steinitz recaptures. And Zuckertort plays bishop g4, bishop takes g4, and here Steinitz resigns. And the World Championship, the first one ever, is now tied 1-1 after 2 games. And if you're wondering why Steinitz resigned here, well, very simply, this pawn is it's too much. So if Steinitz decided to take that pawn, obviously Zuckertort has the knight here with the rook, and he's going to pull this one off, I think. Yeah, game 2 in the books. Let's belly up to the board and head over to the game reviewer, and I'll see you over there. All right, well, let's take a look and see what the game reviewer says real quick. Here were our stats from game 1. Eventually these will be just, the highest and the lowest, but we only have one game so far. So in game 1, Steinitz had a 88.5 accuracy and a 2400 game rating. And so as of right now, those are the highest, but let's take a look at what we've got now for game 2. For game 2, we see Zuckertort is going to take over that highest accuracy, as Zuckertort played 90.2 in accuracy. Steinitz 86.8. And game rating, Zuckertort will take the lead there too, as well. 2450 game rating. Not bad. Well, let's dive in here. So, got all book moves here. Wow, yeah, it's pretty fantastic. I mean, 10 moves in here, nothing but book. Okay, so Zuckertort, first move out of quote-unquote book. I don't know how far that book line goes, but that is move 11. And we get an inaccuracy. Let's see. Okay, so the engine wanted Steinitz to just develop the queen to d2, connect the rooks, and just basically finish development, I guess. All right. Good move. Inaccuracy. This misses an opportunity to tactically win the knight. Let's see the missed tactic. Okay. So Steinitz would have a material advantage here, but take a look at the eval bar. Isn't that interesting? Obviously, this knight is in trouble. Not immediately, but it's in danger for sure. All right, so let's hide that tactic. Great. Oh, our spicy move from Ouroboros gets a brilliant here. Okay. Yeah, I also was questioning why not the rook. So let's see what would happen here. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, you're taking care of the file here too, right? And this rook is then in the game that much earlier. F5, they like it. Yep, there's the best move from Steinitz. Good protection. Queen finally gets in the game. Best move. Steinitz gets a brilliant here for that. Okay. This was the best move. Huh. We'll turn the engine on here. We'll come back to this move, turn the engine on, and find out why, because I'm not sure what the idea is here exactly, but I'm interested to see. Let's just finish this up real quick. Okay, here is that move I was talking about where I read so many things about Steinitz had realized he missed a move after playing knight g6. So let's see. It does say there's an opportunity to win material through a tactic. So I'm pretty sure that Levy's going to tell us what's up here. Let's see. Okay. It traps the rook. So let's go back here. Yeah. So if he had played here, yeah, I guess it does trap the rook, huh? Wild. Yeah, it seems like a big miss. All right. This is great. This keeps the opponent from being able to win a pawn through a fork. Oh, yeah, that would have been bad. All right, not as long as the lines that we saw in game one, but all right, yeah, that would have been bad. All right. Yeah. Black just pulled ahead, not looking good for white. So what was the best move in there? King G2. Scary stuff to me, man. Okay. Rook B1. That's also an inaccuracy. Wants him to play F3 again. Like I said, in the game, the computer was just screaming at Steinitz to play F3 this whole time. From bad to worse. What was the best there? F3 again? No. Oh, Rook B1 here, or Rook B2 here. So somewhere in the world, this Rook B2 is a good move. Interesting. We'll come back to that one as well. Okay. Big oof. A missed chance to capitalize on that mistake. So what was best? I guess it's just opening the way here. Yeah, gonna need the engine for that too. All right, let's continue on here, and then we'll get this engine going. Yeah, that's a big miss here. Yeah, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. Still rough here to hold, I would think, but that makes more sense. Okay. Rook B2 was played. Then we had Queen C6. Ooh, which is also... This basically hands the opponent a chance to kick the rook. What, with F3? So what was best here? Again, getting the rook out. So I wonder if this rook move was just out of sequence with the bishop, maybe? Interesting. All right, Queen C6. F3 finally. Wow, there's a tactic here too. This misses the opportunity to eventually win material. I wonder, let's see how long this line is. It's a pretty long sequence. And yeah, I mean, he is up 2 pawns, but I don't know. Queen c5 check seems fine to me from just looking at it. Rook e1, great. Yeah, show idea check evasion. First of all, what was the best move? It was, in fact, king g2. So this is just the follow-up. Yeah, see, king g2 gives Steinitz a fighting chance. I mean, I don't love it, but he would have had more of a chance here, for sure. All right, so Steinitz plays king h2, queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes, best move. Best move again. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, let's go back. Now that we've got the review, let's throw the engine on here. Like, where was a good spot to start with that? There was bishop takes g4. There was something I remember. Oh, yeah. I want to see what happens engine-wise here if we play rook e8 instead of retreating the bishop, right? So let's play rook fe8. And then, what's it saying here? Bishop e3. So what does that do? Just cut the rook off and force the bishop to move here? Yeah, and then, okay, instead of retreating to a6, which is actually the weakest move, according to the engine here, it likes bishop h5. Yep. So nothing immediate that's like, you know, to call that a miss. Oh, it was an inaccuracy, yeah, but okay. All right. And then let's check out, I want to see knight g6. Obviously, we saw this one. This should have been f3, and Steinitz is doing well, right? Okay, here we go. So this move, rook b1, we decided that this should have been what? Rook f1? The engine likes king g2 here. Okay. King g2, what? Rook e8, huh? Okay. f3 now. Yeah, this is a much different position. Much, much different. Bishop e5, queen f2. Oh, I don't understand queen f2. Queen a3, queen f2. This seems scary. That's the best move in the position, though. Okay. Queen a3 infiltrates here. Okay. Yeah, b takes c has got to be passed, right? Yeah, b takes, bishop takes. Okay, yeah, I mean, this is a much, yeah, it's basically equal. So yeah, rook b1 was a big, big, big miss. All right, king h2, we already discussed how king g2 would have been better. And then, oh yeah, bishop b7 was labeled a miss. So let's see what the engine says. The engine says rook e5 here, and I'm wondering, this is, okay, this is played to rook f1, but like this is already lost. Look at these. Yeah, c takes b, a takes b, queen takes b, yep, queen takes b, f3 finally. No. Yeah, I mean, this is... While it may have been a miss for Zuckertort, this game was pretty much over. King H2, King G2. Oh, that was... I played King G2. It said King H2. Oh, it wants Rook A1 here. Nope. No, it flipped back to King H2. Bishop C4 is screaming. Yeah. I mean, it's lost here. It's lost here. Okay, and then there was one more miss here from Zuckertort where I didn't understand why they said the check was a miss. So what should he have done here? They want Rook E7. Okay. Yeah. I see. This is sitting here pretty weak. Then the Queen F2. Then C takes B. C takes B. He's got Knight takes D3. Wow, this seems... Oof. Again, lost, right? Already lost. So, okay. Well, there you have it. We have some new scores for the stats. We'll get those plugged in for the next game. Hope you guys enjoyed Game 2. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one for Game 3. Cheers.